According to Russian tactics and doctrines, I mean, war is peace and peace is war. So they have been conducting a war when we thought it was peace. And now they're trying to say, no, there is no war.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
It's a trap. Don't trust Russians. Don't trust them. They're deceivers and liars.
Verwarring zaaien is een machtig wapen en propaganda is een bewezen oorlogsstrategie.
Спецоперация – это как понимать?
Это когда цели ведут к миру. Мы не атакуем жилых домов, мы не бьем по мирным гражданам, мы не уничтожаем социальную инфраструктуру.
Hoe vecht je tegen halve en hele leugens? Hoe bescherm je je tegen de Russische propaganda?
Information operations is a serious thing. It's not something that should be ignored.
Yeah, you have to fight back with truth, you know.
Dit is Tegenlicht. Welkom in een wereld waarin om de waarheid gevochten wordt. In Litouwen vindt men al jaren dat het vechten tegen Russische propaganda niet aan de media of burgers overgelaten kan worden. Hier zijn militaire maatregelen genomen om het land te beschermen tegen agressieve onwaarheden. De informatie-invasie is de eerste invasie voor de tanks binnenkomen rijden. Het ministerie van Defensie monitort daarom 24 uur per dag alle media op zoek naar nepnieuws. In deze control room zagen ze de voorbereidingen op de oorlog al ruim van tevoren aankomen.
Our National Commission on TV and Radio Issues decided to ban the most prominent Russian and Belarus state TV channels because it violates our national law. The warfare is happening not only on land, on air, in the seas, but the warfare is happening in information environment. So it's very important to us as a military institution to be up to date, to observe what is happening, to analyze and understand the aim of the information spread and its purposes and its targets. We see by the real examples how information environment was being prepared by Russia's and Belarus state media sources to justify the war narrative and to get the support to its action.
You saw it coming in a way.
Yes. We see absolutely correlation and merge of the warfare in informational environment and physical environment. And it means we always saw the reality of Russia's military actions. And then we see that, unfortunately, our observations were right. We have no guarantees that Russia will stop there. Russia will stop in the place it will be stopped. We must be not scared, but we must be aware.
In Litouwen woedt de informatieoorlog al jaren. Het verzet tegen desinformatie is hier dan ook al langer aan de orde van de dag. De onafhankelijke denktank Debunk onderzoekt de desinformatie om het land weerbaarder te maken. Sinds de inval van de Russen in Oekraïne is dit team in de hoogste staat van paraatheid om de desinformatie over de invasie zo snel mogelijk te ontmantelen.
I was able to do it through Georgia. Now it doesn't seem to be working. So let's see how it goes. But yeah, VPN is the best option for that. NordVPN doesn't give you Russian servers. I wonder why. Oh, really?
Yes. Okay, let's see. Now I think I'm connected. Yes, through Moscow. And you can pick Moscow.
Because we could check what's actually working in Russia and what's not. Right. Because now it's super weird. It changes every day.
On Russian TV, they're saying that Vladimir Putin went and waged war on Nazis in Ukraine, which is just not true. But this is what they're saying. RT is one of the prominent Russian state media outlets. The other one is TASS. For example, here it says that Kiev is refusing to open humanitarian corridors which were proposed by Russia. And they show the victories of Russian army. So here it says that they destroyed 2,396 objects of military equipment in Ukraine. Just now he called that military in Mariupol city, they had a clash with Ukrainian nationalists. So they're not calling them, for example, Ukrainian army, Ukrainian armed forces. It's Ukrainian nationalists. That's the narrative that's being used by the government.
And you maybe notice also how they struggle. They call it surgical strikes. They talk about a very, very precise and very narrow use of force for very specific targets in Donetsk and Luhansk. But then you have articles like these that talks about 2,396 military objects destroyed. So there is, on the one hand, this very triumphalist narrative, but they somehow try to combine it with the narrative that it's all very, very targeted and very precise, and we're not, killing civilians and so on. So the two things are obviously contradictory. When you build a narrative that is based on lies and disinformation, it becomes really, really difficult to keep track of what you have been saying. And inevitably you end up with this kind of contradictory statements and this kind of illogical, really, analysis of reality, like in this article.
It is crisis. It is a huge crisis. Now it's a European crisis. It's not just a problem in Ukraine, all of Europe.
And do you feel like the disinformation attacks have increased as well?
Dramatically. In 5 years, we never seen the scale as we see now. It is just crazy. In Kremlin's controlled media, the world is portrayed as an absolute parallel universe that has nothing to do with the truth.
A number of attempts at opening humanitarian corridors to date have ended in failure. The next is expected to be made in 5 Ukrainian cities, including the country's capital, today. One of those areas people are desperate to flee from is Mariupol in the country's southeast, where the situation really is grueling. The Russian Defense Ministry recently commented on the situation in the city, claiming militants were using terrorist tactics.
И для этого мы будем стремиться к демилитаризации и денацификации Украины, а также преданию суду тех, кто совершил многочисленные кровавые преступления против мирных жителей, в том числе и граждан Российской Федерации.
They're just blowing out of the proportion the Nazi, for example, the Nazi narrative. So they're taking a far right march in, let's say, Kiev with 100, 200 people, but they put this in a sort of context to make it seem that the whole of Ukraine is like this.
And why are they doing that?
To just, to legitimize the conflicts, to give ground to the explanation that Russia needs to go help people in Donetsk and Luhansk who are being oppressed by Nazi regime in Kiev. That's the narrative. They had to ensure public support for this. Because, without public support, in the end of the day, the military won't go. The military also has to believe that they're doing this for the right cause, whatever the right cause is.
Just imagine of these in occupied territories, they are just bringing full buses of pro-Russian people who will cheer that they got liberated. How crazy is that?
Vladimir Putin has signed a decree recognizing the Donetsk and Lugansk republics as sovereign states.
So they are creating these propaganda videos and bringing people, then cheering, creating fireworks, and showing this then to Russian citizens that they got liberated Ukrainians from some kind of Nazis. What kind of parallel universe is that?
Now with the advancing technology and the scale of how easy you can reach target audiences. Like there were TikToks, sponsored TikToks where Russian TikTokers read from the paper that, this is military operation, we're helping Ukraine, we're liberating Ukraine. Every little piece of puzzle, every asset they can use, they're using.
Донецкий установлен мемориал «Аллея ангелов».
Интернет и соцсети уже давно стали средством информационной войны.
Она уже больше 10 погибших в Донбассе. За время войны погибли сотни невинных детей. Вот уже освободительная операция РФ – это вынужденная.
Just looking at the legislation which is being passed in Russia in the last 5 years, let's say, it was getting tougher and tougher and tougher for independent press to work there. And now, with these new legislations being passed, as I've mentioned, that if you say that Russia started a war in Ukraine, you can get up to 15 years of jail.
But why has the skill of propaganda?
Well, because they have to keep up, like Russian and the Kremlin, they have to keep up the image that they've created over the years. Because if they don't keep it up, then if the public in Russia get the glimpses of truth, then they will go to the streets in way larger numbers, because now people are going to the streets in Russia, but we're seeing them getting detained immediately and quite brutally.
Hallo, добрый вечер.
In Rusland komt nauwelijks nog informatie uit het westen het land in. Litouwse burgers zijn op meerdere manieren betrokken bij de crisis in Oekraïne. Het overtuigen van de Russen van een andere realiteit zien zij als essentieel onderdeel van de strijd. Giedrius is een van de velen die via de app Call Russia contact probeert te leggen met Russen om ze te vertellen hoe hij de situatie in Oekraïne ziet.
Hallo, добрый вечер. Вы слышите меня? Слушаю. Да, вы слышите меня? Добрый вечер. Вы слышите меня? Да. Алло. Меня зовут Гедрюс, я доброволец. Я вам звоню из Литвы, из Вильнюса. Я участвую в программе, которая звучит так, что «Позвони простым людям в Россию». Я простой парень, и моя такая мечта есть позвонить людям в Россию, поговорить, знают ли они то, что происходит на этот момент в Украине.
Знаете, мне политика вообще не важна.
Но...
Я не интересуюсь этим.
Так вы какую-то дозу информации можете получить, что там теперь происходит?
На Украине?
Да, на Украине.
Военные действия.
Что
еще? Больше ничего не знаю.
ТикТоком пользуешься?
Да.
Окей. А там видео про войну тебе удалось что-то видеть или ничего нет в твоем окружении?
Сейчас это особо там блокируют, так что уже нет.
Окей. А ребята не боятся, что призовут в армию их в этом...
Нет, срочников не призывают на военные операции.
А ты знаешь, что срочники теперь участвуют в боях в Украине и погибают? Там есть множество лиц, которые...
Нет, это все фейк. Я сам слышал, я знаю, что это невозможно, это все фейк. У меня братья сейчас служат, и я им звоню, и они тоже, боятся тоже то, что отправят, но они сами, им командиры тоже говорят, что это все неправда, и срочников не могут отправить.
Так там уже очевидные списки, которые есть с ребятами, там тысячами, там больше 10 тысяч уже убитых ребят, которые погибли, как мясо в Украине, под городами.
Так выражаться, конечно, тоже не стоит.
Ну нет.
Можно вам тоже вопрос?
Да, конечно.
Зачем вы интересуете, зачем вы пудрите себе голову этим? Вы вообще живете в другой стране, и это вас вообще никак не касается. Для чего, типа, вот это делаете?
Знаете, я не думаю, что нас не касается, потому что я думаю, что то, что совершила Россия на этот момент, ну, нападение на независимую страну, которая там имела выбранное свои управления, которая имела свое руководство демократически выбрано, но это просто такой теракт, и я понимаю, что если на это закрыть глаза, то Бог знает, что будет дальше.
Не знаю, даже не особо, типа, интересуюсь политикой.
Я вообще очень рад, что ты со мной говоришь.
Я хотел на второй минуте посмотрел, какой-то номер, я думал, да ну нафиг, какая-то хотел сбросить.
Не-не-не, ты молодец, я очень тебе благодарен, что ты вообще со мной говоришь, и вот как бы сперва не хотел, а потом стали разговаривать, и я как понимаю, ты молодой, умный человек, и, наверное, ну, прекрасно понимаешь, что там, ну, войны не надо.
Ну, во-первых, это, я как уже повторял, мы ничего не можем с этим делать. Мы что, куда-то пойдем, санкции, что-то там вот это митинги устраивать. Мы ничего этим не добьемся, нас просто до митинга заведут, грубо говоря, или посадят в КПЗ.
А вы этого боитесь, да?
Высшим людям, как бы высшим людям надо это решить.
А ты думаешь, что высшие люди... Угу. Хорошего вечера, всего.
Давайте, вам тоже.
It's my weapon. Today is my weapon, yeah.
Do you think you changed something by this conversation in his mind?
I hope yes. I want to change. I understand that it's not really to change now in this moment. But if I change something in his mind, something about the information, about the Ukraine, about the people in Ukraine, it's good. It's a good point.
The Ministry of Education announced that all children from 6 years, so basically from the first grade, need to be educated about Ukraine invasion, or how they call it, special operation, liberation of Ukraine, and so on. So kind of, this is an official decision of Russian Ministry of Education. And they started, like, all the teachers now are being instructed how they need to educate children on this event. Some teachers are protesting against that, but now there's this law that if something is communicated different than the government wants, then they might end up up to 15 years in prison.
Урок проводится Институтом воспитания при поддержке Министерства просвещения Российской Федерации.
Сейчас все готовы обсуждать новостные сводки из всех источников, давать оценочные суждения, кричать и плакать. Пространство вокруг наполнено эмоциями. Но сколько людей, столько и мнений. А события сегодняшнего дня берут свое начало задолго до нашего рождения. И тут у меня вопрос. А спецоперация — это как понимать?
Это когда цели ведут к миру. Мы не атакуем жилых домов, мы не бьем по мирным гражданам, мы не уничтожаем социальную инфраструктуру, детские сады, школы, водоканалы, подстанции. Мы принуждаем к миру Украину, не допускаем развития ее военного потенциала, уничтожаем глобальную угрозу, которая может возникнуть для нашей страны, для наших новых союзников в виде Луганской и Донецкой республик.
Ну, теперь-то ты понимаешь, что настоящая спецоперация заканчивает события, начатые еще много лет назад.
Начатые не нами войны.
Да, но мне сложно это понять. Но теперь я хотя бы начинаю видеть логику.
This is super professional. Just look at the studio, how everything is prepared. This didn't happen overnight. To prepare the programs, to prepare the communication, to prepare, and just think like how much time it takes to do something in the Ministry of Education. So this was long time prepared, and now they are implementing it because they knew that this will be a problem. They are creating this information blockade, so citizens of Russia would not understand what's actually happening, and they would just believe in this parallel universe that Russia is creating. I think it's a very desperate move to deceive children, and everyone who will see this in the West, everyone will agree that this is just crazy. This should never happen.
I think we also recognize the pattern because we had this also in Lithuania, when we forced to be in Soviet Union, and when you have children and they go to these pioneer campings and they are joining some pioneer organizations and they are just brainwashing them, and after all, when we've get rid of this Soviet Union, when it collapsed and we got our independence, we saw that everything that was there was absolutely lies and not true, and that we were just brainwashed. So what we see now is exactly the same what was happening during the Soviet Union. So that's why it's embarrassing so much.
Does it make you mad?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's unfair and it's not true. So they will live in the parallel universe like we did, and that was painful.
We cannot help but think, okay, well, if we're not next, then we're the third. But we are in line, and we are close in that line. And that's really, really scary to think.
We have a lot of
and Kaliningrad
borders.
Is so close,
and
there's so much stuff in there.
Yeah, so it's like it's absolutely around us. So why shouldn't we be next? It's very easy just to cut off. Yeah. Of course, we're NATO, so we're maybe more secured, but you're also watching all those things happening with NATO, and it's not always that all NATO countries are so united for taking some actions. So you never know how it will be. We know when the invasion would take place in Lithuania. So would they be so united? They will be more united, or they won't be so much united and say, "Oh, look at Estonia, it's just 1 million people. Just give it away to Russia. No problem. We don't want problems."
Would you also say that if your worst fear materializes, you're preparing to fight back?
Oh yeah. I think also for me personally, I know that if it would come to worst, I would not run, because what's the point, to be honest? Like if I would run knowingly that there might not be a place for me to come back, no. I think I would stay.